What up guys, welcome back and I hope you're doing amazing. In this video I'm going to share 9 common Lightroom editing mistakes that photographers make in 2023. Lightroom has made some major updates in 2023 including AI mask. However, these can cause significant issues if you use it incorrectly. In this photo I selected the model using a subject mask, but it is clear as daylight that I have just overused it. It appears as if the model was copied from another image and pasted onto this background. If this is the case with your image, an easy solution is to use the small eye icon to compare the before and after of your mask. You can quickly determine if it is overdone or not. Simply adjust the mask by bringing down the amount slider. Make sure, however, that you selected the mask that you adjust. Make sure to straighten those horizons. Few things are as off-putting as a skew horizon in a photo. To fix this, click the cropping tool and then use the straighten tool. Click on the one side of your horizon and drag it to the other side and just let go. You can use the same method for indoor photos. In this example, I'm using the door frame to straighten the photo, and in this other example I'm using the cupboard line to do so. Do not use walls or lines on the edges of photos because there might be distortion and it will not straighten the photo correctly. It's better to use the middle of the photo for straightening. This also brings us to cropping. Composition is all about feel, how the image feels to us as photographers and also the viewer. Composition can make or break an image. In this image, the model is sitting on the left of the image and there are just too much space on the right of the image. By simply cropping off the right and lifting the frame a bit so that the third line cuts her eyes, the image becomes way stronger. In this image there is a disturbing window frame on the right, and the distance between the guy on the left and wall is not the same as the guy on the right and the wall. So it's an easy fix for the composition and getting rid of the window. This image needs a subtle crop, but it makes a huge difference to the feel. I would say 90% of images needs cropping, so make sure to crop. Lightroom recently introduced their adaptive portrait presets, and although they are amazing and makes your workflow faster, they are by no means perfect. For this image, I'm using the Glamour Portrait preset by just clicking on it. The first thing I see is that both of them got a lip enhancement and her eyes look softer, which I don't like. Let's look at all the masks the preset created. First one is teeth, and because there are no teeth in the photo, it shows an exclamation mark. You can just leave it or delete it by clicking or pressing the delete button on your keyboard. By clicking on the lips mask, we can see that the guy's lips was also affected. To remove this, I'm just going to click on the subtract and choose the brush. Click on the letter O to see the mask. Now brush away the selection on his lips. Click O again to take away the mask view, and now you can decide if you like what the mask did to her lips. You will see by default it added tint on her lips, a bit of saturation and removed some texture. You can adjust anything you like, but make sure not to overdo it. You can even change the color of her lips by using the hue sliders. The next mask I want to look at is the last one, which is facial skin. By clicking on it, you will see that both faces were selected. Not only that, but I also see that her eyes were selected and parts of her mouth. I don't want that because I like sharp looking eyes and texture in the lips. You can just click again on the subtract, select the brush and click the O to see the mask. I'm now just going to brush away the selection on his face and the parts on her face that I don't like. I'm also going to take away a bit more clarity and add more texture. This is a personal preference and you can play with it and see what works for you. Look at what happens if you overdo it. After bringing back her eyes and the facial mask, we can now look at the iris and pupil selection by clicking on it. Zoom in on the eyes and make sure to overexpose it to see what the selection looks like. Here you can see that it's not perfect, and again, I'm just going to remove parts of it. Once I'm happy, I can start adjusting according to my preference. Hair and eyebrow masks I never touch because I feel it works most of the time. The eye sclera, I don't know how you pronounce it, however, is one I most of the time delete or dial down. The easy way to dial it down is just to click on the mask and then go to the amount slider and dial it down. The clarity and texture slider is one I often see being overused, and you need to be careful when using them. Photographers often use the clarity slider to create more detail or even create a soft look. When overusing it, it can really spoil an image. To get that soft, dreamy look, perhaps think of getting a mist filter and get that dreamy effect in camera. I have a video on the black mist filter and we'll link it down below. You can, however, also select the subject and then invert the selection. Now bring down the clarity slider to get a dreamy effect. A mist filter will, however, give you better results in camera. Overuse of saturation is not something that has started in 2023, but I see it still being overused in 2023. Make sure to use a calibrated monitor and be careful with the saturation slider. If your monitor is not calibrated, I highly recommend you buy yourself a Spider monitor calibrator. I'll link one down below that I use. It will definitely make a difference in your photos. Personally, I hardly ever use saturation, and I would rather use the HSL sliders because it will give me way more control on very specific colors. When cloning in a photo, you need to make sure of two things. The depth of field needs to be the same. You can see here that the wall looks blurry and it just doesn't make sense. Also make sure that no patterns are being repeated. If something like content aware does not give you the desired result, then use Yule or clone. You can break repeated patterns by just cloning over parts of them to make it less obvious. Film look created by curves is something that has been popular for a while, but it's also something that gets overused a lot. To create it, you need to take the bottom left corner of the point curve and pull it up. 2 points works better than 1. Here you see an example that is overdone, and this is an example that is subtle and looks good.